Welcome to Politics Done Right on KPFT. I am your host, Egberto Williams. This is the progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. Give me a call at 713-526-5738. That is 713-526-KPFT. Remember, you can also send me a tweet to EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Williams. Let us engage. It is politics done right.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Williams, your host. Thank you so kindly for being a part of this show. Thank you so kindly for spending this 1 hour with us. We are going to have a great show today. Right, Senor Don?
That is correct.
And you know, it's great because we have some real grassroots activists in the house today. And you know what that means? This is where it all begins, folks. This is where the takeover of not only the state house, the takeover of not only Congress, the takeover of the entire damn country begins. Right, guys?
Right.
So what are we going to do?
Take over the country.
Take over the country.
You know what? I love to hear that. It's going to be the progressive renaissance. But you know, since we have a full house, let's start to get busy with the program as it is right now. Today, the title of the program is "Progressives Must Take Control of Legislatures District by District." And the reason I'm happy to have these great folks in here is that is exactly what they're doing, Don. They're the template that the rest of the country has to follow to ensure that we are going to flip all these districts to progressives. But anyhow, here it goes. Now more than ever, it is time for a progressive renaissance in the United States. Choosing the protagonists of the renaissance begins in the primaries. And progressives are up to the task. For decades, Americans have been told that they needed to conform to a rightward moving middle. Listen, abiding by that ill-advised principle has brought us nothing but misery, social conflict, and income inequality and wealth disparity. Those days are now what? They are over. The progressive grassroots has begun to assert itself, and it will be felt in every district in Texas and throughout the country. Congress and state legislatures around the world, or rather around the country, are going progressive in 2018 and in 2020. If my distinguished panel has anything to say about it. Today, we are honored to have 3 activists working on all issues related to electing the right candidates in the primaries and in the national elections. So, folks, we have with us Rebecca Shukla, was born in Chicago. She is a grassroots activist working to turn Texas Congressional District 7 blue and to take as much of Texas with it as possible. Her organizing experience was developed through many years of volunteering in the public schools. After the election, this self-described Jewish woman married to an Indian man with 2 brown sons. Hey, that's not my words, that's her words. A mother-in-law with a green card and a mother that relies on Social Security and Medicare, Medicaid, decided that standing on the sidelines of politics was no longer an option. What is no longer?
No longer an option.
Absolutely not. And we have, and I got to say it right, Delilah Agho-Otoghile. Did I say that right?
Yes.
I said it right. Is the regional coordinator in Houston for Battleground, Texas. She's a native Houstonian who's excited to be back organizing in Texas. Raised in Fort Bend County, Delilah attended the Pennsylvania State University where she studied philosophy and political science. So, you know, we have a brains in here in the whole political scope of things, right? After working as an organizer for the Martin O'Malley in Iowa caucus, she served as a regional organizer director for Hillary Clinton's campaign in Florida. Delilah returned to Texas as a field director for Equality Texas this past February, running a conservative canvass during the legislative session. I gotta ask, what's a conservative canvass?
We were reaching out to Republicans to educate them on the lack of protections for the LGBT community.
I love that. I love that. You know, so you're doing sort of what we do at Coffee Party. I love that kind of stuff. Keep up the good work. And of course, I'm with my brother here in crime, El Señor Daniel Cohen is the founder of Indivisible Houston and also the president of Indivisible Houston, an all-around Houston activist who was one of the activists instrumental in successful protests in support of our immigrant brothers and sisters at the Houston Intercontinental Airport a few weeks ago. And let me add to that, because he's been going through this old confounded county, making sure that people are listening to the progressive voices, and he's a great instigator to make sure people get off of their butts and get out there and do what they have to do. So folks, for those living in Texas Congressional District 7, Swing Texas 7 Left is hosting a candidate forum that all should attend. It will be held this Saturday, December 2nd, 2017, between 2 p.m. and 4 p.m. in Jersey Village at Cook Middle School at 911 Wheatland Drive, Houston, Texas. It is imperative that you attend. And before I go to the rest of the program, you want to add anything to that, Rebecca?
No, just come out and see what's going on. We really want to get more voices in the room, and we'd like to hear from you what has been working in your community to get more people out to vote, more people civically engaged.
Well, folks, listen to what she has to say, because, again, change only happens when you are willing to make the change that needs to happen, okay? Anyhow, before I get to the program, I want to remind all our listeners that KPFT is a bastion of intelligent voices and programs. As a political activist myself, my favorites are The Monitor with...
I don't know.
Oh, come on.
No, seriously.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Mike Babawi has decided to leave for educational purposes.
Right, that is correct.
So, The Monitor with Mark Babawi on Mondays at 7. We still will have a show Mondays at 7, but
for now it's sort of in not sure.
In flux.
We'll take care of that flux later. But then of course we have Think Wing Radio with
Mike Honig on Mondays at 9 p.m.
And of course there's Partisan Gridlock, which you're also the engineer for.
Yes, that's with Jeff Berg on Fridays at 3 p.m.
And Open Journal with Dwayne
Bradley, Marlo Blue on Mondays at 6 p.m.
And of course, one of my favorites, Jazz Latino, Afro-Cuban Latin Jazz. It's at its very best, hosted by Juan Flores, and at
Tuesdays at 12 noon.
Is it 12 or 2? Well, I got it, 12 now. And of course, we have your show, The Human Condition, at 3 p.m., followed by the Free Minstrel Show. I don't know how comes everybody has one show and you got two shows.
That's the only shows I told you to put on a list.
Oh, you mean you have more than two?
Yeah, but I don't like to talk about that.
I'm hurt. I'm hurt. But anyhow, folks, check out our full schedule at kpft.org, where you can find programming from music to politics to the medicine to the eclectic. KPFT is a listener-supported public community radio station, so please remember that if you like what you hear, visit kpft.org and ensure we remain a strong, viable community radio station that provides news, programming, and information not influenced by whom?
The plutocracy.
And the corporatocracy, my friend, and the corporatocracy. Anyway, this is KPFT 90.1 FM, Houston, Texas. We want to hear your voice. We want to hear your thoughts. Politics Done Right is the hashtag. And, of course, follow me, Twitter, Egberto Willies. You can listen to it on Facebook Live at Politics Done Right with Egberto Willies, or you can go to the YouTube channel. And, of course, you can go to kpft.org. But, folks, before we get busy, do you know what time it is?
It's time for the weekly blog post.
All right, folks. This is some serious stuff that we have to get to. Progressives. We can't repeat 2016. We have to be smart with what we do. Anyway, title of the blog post this time around: Progressives must have a litmus test to secure the grassroots. No more jokes. No more fooling around, folks. Anyway, it goes this way. The fight against the repeal of the Affordable Care Act was huge. The grassroots led the way, but the Democratic establishment fell in line, giving the movement some parallel coverage, not only in independent media, but even in the mainstream media. There is a distinct difference in the response the establishment has had to the Republican tax cut scam. Yes, they give the standard complaint about the bulk of the benefits going to the top. Yes, they talk about the deficits. But where the hell is the passion? Where the hell is the personalization of the bill that illustrates in graphic terms how it impacts everyday Americans, the progressive base, the conservative base, and even the Trump cult? Remember, it screws them all. The answer is known even if it is not too evident to all. The establishment duopoly shares many of the same donors who won't complain too harshly if the Republican tax cut scam becomes law. After all, it will mean more dough for them. The greenback accumulation will continue. Republicans have already admitted that one of the main reasons for their tax cut scam is to appease their donors who intend to turn off the cash flow faucets if they don't get a return on investment, their tax cuts. Just before writing this post, Republican Senator John McCain came out in favor of the Senate's tax cut scam. Many other Republican senators on the fence will follow his lead. The stock market is soaring in anticipation of Republicans laying the map for transferring the wealth and income of the poor and the middle class to the titans of finance, the capitalist pilferers, the plutocrats. It is just the continued instantiation of the Powell Manifesto. Look it up, Powell Manifesto. It's already on the post. So what are we to do? It is litmus test time, folks. It is litmus test time. And where do you do that? You do that in primaries. Only one current prevalent ideology has at its center the American poor and the American middle class. Progressives understand that liberal social values and robust middle class centric economic policies are what create real freedom. When you hear all those Tea Partiers talking about, I want my freedom, that is crap. What they want is their cell. They're not looking for freedom. They don't know what freedom is. Progressives do. For too long, a centered approach to appease a non-existent moderate right was the modus operandi for the progressive or for the democratic progressives. One must note that even self-described conservatives, when evaluated on issues, are guess what? Progressives. America is a progressive country where many fear admitting so. It is progressive, but people are scared to say it. Makes them think they are who they aren't. Anyhow, conforming to the right has given us over 30 years of supply-side economics that has decimated the poor and the middle class. It has given us policies that negated women's choice and freedom, as well as the voting rights of many. It has given us less than optimal health care. And with net neutrality at risk, it has opened the door for virtual oppression with the inability to organize effectively or efficiently. In that light, it is imperative that progressives get to work during the 2018 and 2020 primaries. A litmus test is a must. Every candidate must come out and tell poor and middle class Americans in no uncertain terms why they deserve their vote and what they will do to make their lives better. No double talking to placate the plutocrats they may want to get money from in an expedient manner. Bernie Sanders proved that progressives would open their pocketbooks en masse with the little they have to offer. Candidates to the best of their ability should fund from the grassroots to ensure it is the grassroots that they are representing. Period. They must support policies that are sympathetic to the decidedly progressives' brand new Congress platform and the Justice Democrats platform. If progressives want to change America, if progressives wish to reverse the juggernaut that is effectively destroying the middle class, it is time to do the work the right way and to support policies Americans can see will help their everyday lives. Nothing else, absolutely nothing else, will convince the voters to give up the status quo. They want folks who will fight for them, and not only with words, but with deeds. Folks, telephone number 713-526-5738. Again, that number is 713-526-5738. But before I get started, let me just re-welcome my great panel here. Rebecca, Delilah, and Senor Daniel. How are you guys doing today?
Fantastic.
What? Are we ready to take this stuff over?
We're ready to do it.
Let's do this.
Okay, so let me start with the very simple question. What have we been doing wrong, and what do we need to do that is going to be right? And let me start that with, who wants to answer that first?
I want to say something first.
Go ahead and say
The number one thing we're doing wrong in Texas is we're not voting.
That is an excellent answer. And isn't that something Delilah is actually working on?
Yeah, so Battleground's a grassroots statewide organization Battleground Texas is a grassroots statewide organization dedicated to turning Texas into a battleground state by treating it like one. And we can do that through a couple of different ways, but we focus primarily on expanding the electorate because I think we all agree that Democrats have a chance and the state will become more competitive once we register more people to vote. And once we register them to vote, then we'll turn them out. I know here in Harris County in 2016, we had unprecedented turnout. And of course, Harris County went blue, which was really exciting. But across the state, right, we still ranked really low for a presidential year in terms of turnout, ranking 49th out of 50 states. So Battleground was founded under the belief that Texas isn't this red state, this conservative state that we believe it is. We're a non-voting state. So to Rebecca's point, if we register all the eligible voters in Texas and turn them out, I think Texas would be a lot more exciting.
I want to put you on the spot a little bit as far as Battleground Texas is concerned real quick. Now, what happened, let's say in 2016, what happened with your performance as far as why weren't you able to get these people out to vote? Because I agree with you 100%. I mean, this is really a non-voting state, but there's something at the core. Earlier, when I brought you in, you mentioned about the group that you worked with, which was to really talk to other people that are not necessarily, generally speaking, Democrats or blue, but to kind of encourage them that our message, or I shouldn't say our message, the message of the blue side is a message that best fit their well-being. Why weren't you successful in 2016?
So I think it's important to note that we had a really good year in 2016, right? In Harris County, we had unprecedented turnout for Democratic candidates. Along with that, right, there are only 4 states where Hillary Clinton outperformed President Obama, and Texas came number 2, right? And that was with very little resources, very little, like we didn't have the grassroots organizations that we have on the ground now post-2016. So despite the low voter turnout for a presidential year, I think 2016 was really promising because without the work that's being done now, we were still able to turn out lots of Democratic voters.
Well, I stand corrected because I mean I didn't realize that I know Harris County did well, but I kind of I always wondered why Harris County never does well as it should. So I mean it was expected to do well, but around the state I didn't realize that it was that successful. So I stand corrected on that. Keep up the good work and just get better. Daniel.
I mean, there's no root cause to any given thing, right? So you got multiple things that are going on. I agree with Rebecca that we got to get people out to vote. I think Battleground did really, really good work. Y'all hit a double or a triple. We got to hit a grand slam for 2018 and 2020, of course. But I think that y'all did really good work in terms of moving the needle on that. Kim Ogg got a lot of votes. But on that same note, Kim Ogg ran on rolling back petty possession law. She ran on clearing out the rape kits, right, in Harris County. Being unapologetically progressive is a principled and correct thing to do. So even if it weren't electorally viable, at the end of the day, you don't always ask yourself whether or not something is electorally viable. You go out and you do it because it's the right thing to do. I agree with your blog post of the week, but I'll take it a step farther. When we think about the progressive vision and we're thinking about who we're engaging in the process, don't they line up pretty well? I mean, if you want to have overwhelming turnout, don't you have to talk about issues that are at the core of justice for people? Shouldn't you not be treating the black and brown community as an afterthought? Shouldn't you be railing against the Republican Party turning the trans community into a football? Like, isn't this the right thing to do? Shouldn't we be railing for single payer? Shouldn't we make sure that nobody dies in the streets just because they don't have money in their pocket? Shouldn't we be railing against corporations creating a fragile system that we're all dependent upon? Isn't this the stuff that we should be doing anyway? Shouldn't we demand that from our candidates as it is?
We should absolutely demand it, and we probably should also run you for some sort of... No, but actually what you're saying is very true. You don't have, and that's what I think I mentioned that in the blog, not in those words, but when we go ahead and we say something to the effect as most Americans don't claim to be progressive, but if you ask them the wants and the needs that they have, it is decidedly progressive. So therefore, if you go, as you just mentioned, with those particular policies and facts or whatever, that definitely states that you should be getting their votes. And that's where I go back to what is the problem, why we have some of these issues when I asked Delilah and Rebecca, because what is it that, and that's what I would like this program as well to do to the people that are listening. What do we have to do? What the listeners the listener of my program, we are sort of preaching mostly to the choir, right? So what we want to do is not only preach to the choir, but make the choir into people that are going to go out there and sell the progressive values and not just sit down and listen to us rant, but actually duplicate themselves. What is it that we need to do? And maybe you can tell me, Delilah.
Well, just going back to voting power, I think that there's a lot of apathy in across the state because a lot of Democrats, as I said before, right, believe that Texas is this red state, and there's no hope. I think Rebecca would agree that sometimes when we're registering voters, there are a lot of young people who express that they don't understand like why they should register to vote in Texas because their vote doesn't matter. But again, right, like if everyone voted in Texas, I think representation would look a lot different from what we have right now. Texas is the only majority-minority state that still has, Republican
control.
Yes, correct. So I think it's just about, educating them about their voting power and making sure that once they're registered, they actually turn out to vote.
I want to tag on to that because I was out canvassing this morning, and I knocked on a door, and a man came to the door, and actually it was a woman I was looking for. I didn't know who he was, but she was asleep, so I talked to him, and he said, "Oh yeah, I just vote because my wife really wants me to vote," and he identified as independent. And he's like, "But it matters only really on the local level," and I was like, "No, that's actually not true. If we all actually got out and voted, we could make a difference on the state level and on the federal level." And we talked for several minutes. He wasn't convinced, but I threw a lot of numbers at him, and for many of the people our side, I think those numbers do. Like, I think he'll be thinking about those numbers.
I think those are things that are very important to do. I think you have to plant the seed. You plant a lot of seeds into people's mind. You don't leave a conversation hoping to people to tell you, "I've seen the light." You don't want people to say that. In fact, that is very shallow, right? You want folks to actually take what you have to say, seed it, and then later on come upon it on their own. That is what sticks. When somebody just changed your mind in front of you, I'm always suspect about that.
Well, because we want him to take it to the next conversation. Right. He can be at dinner and be saying, "You know what I learned? Oh my God, only 20% of Texans turn out to vote in most elections."
Imagine that, huh? Imagine that. Now, there's something else. I'm going to take some calls, and callers, I'm coming to you in a minute, but there's some, I want you guys to keep this in the back of your head because I want to explore this. In the blog post, I mentioned about a duopoly, and I am with quite a whole lot of different groups, spend time with a whole lot of different groups, and one of the problems is people are apathetic towards both the Republican and Democratic Party, and in fact, I wrote a blog post a couple of, last night, in fact, where it talks about millennials, they're upset completely with these two parties, and what they really want is a third party. We know that could lend to a certain type of disaster that we've seen before. And the question that I'd like you guys to tell millennials out there is, what do you have in store? Assuming that all of you are with the Democratic Party, what is it that has to change within so that it would appeal to folks that currently think this duopoly is just the two rails that I always talk about? But let's go to línea número uno. Gary, come on in, Gary, number one.
Hello, Egberto. I want to ask your guest and you about the story no one's talking about now.
Which one?
Well, it's coming up now. I got to lay my groundwork.
Yes, sir.
Everybody knows that what's going on in this country politically all circles around money, money, money.
Yes.
And, they're saying, well, the Republicans are trying to protect their donors and everyone, et cetera, et cetera. Money, money, money. Now, here's a story no one's talking about. A man makes $50,000 a year. That's not a bad salary, okay? That's pretty good. You can pay for your insurance and pay for your home. That takes you 40 years to come up with $20 million. Now, Matt Lauer's in the news because he had a little hanky-panky.
Right.
He makes $20 million
25
a year. A man makes more in 1 year, and I'm perfectly sure he's in the media, he may actually be a liberal, makes more in 1 year than the average guy out there makes in 40 years, his entire lifetime, his whole career. I'd like to hear that. Your opinion on that?
Well, let me first tell you, you don't have to only hear my opinion on that. I've written about that in several of my blogs. First of all, one of the issues is I am definitely for the 90% type tax rate. I think, as I've stated several times, there is an aberration within capitalism that allows for income and wealth inequality. It is by design. It's not an accident, okay? So what I'm saying is there has to be ways. If you want capitalism, and let me just be Everybody who knows me knows it. I am not a capitalist. I am a free enterpriser. There's a distinct difference. Now, for those who have to live with capitalism, I'm a compromiser. You want to keep capitalism? Fine. Just make sure that you have a tax system that mitigates the aberration within capitalism. And in other words, Matt Lauer, if you want to pay Matt Lauer $25 million, pay him $25 million. Just take away 24. You know what I mean? So people don't like to hear that. But when you look at the arithmetic behind an expanding economy, an economy that expands at 2%, while the expansion for the wealthy is 6 or 7%, is unsustainable, mathematically speaking. As an engineer, I can tell you, it falls on its head. Do you want it to fall, or do you want to mitigate its failure? It's one or the other, but you're not going to have it two ways. Anything else you want to add on that? Anybody wants to add anything to that? Hold on, Gary. I want to see if my panel wants
Gary's
to add.
right. I mean, the only thing that I might take issue with anything that you said is the idea that no one's talking about it, because Occupy talked about it. Bernie Sanders screamed from the rooftops that all of our wealth is going to the top 10th of the top 1%. And for the last 3 months, the grassroots has been pushing back against the Republican tax scam, which is going to lead to further income inequality in the United States, is going to move wealth upward.
This isn't the Koch brothers we're talking about. I mean, there are football players that make more than Matt Lauer ever will, and movie actor. I mean, it's like we don't reward poets and artists and scientists.
I mean, look, Gary, you're right. Okay. Help us change it. That's what we talk about it here all the time, and you call into my show all the time, and we all love to talk about this stuff. Guess what we're doing out here? We're trying to, first of all, convince people that these things are wrong, because you know what? Before you can get anything accomplished, you have to be able to talk to folks and rationally and have them buy into your theory. That's the reason why I'm not a flamer. You don't hear me just call people out. I don't flame for one specific reason. You have to get folks to listen to you first. Gary, you're a great guy. Thank you for calling. I love the point that you brought up. Before we go any further, though, Don, make your point. That was an interesting point that you made there.
Yeah, I just want to point out, because he mentioned Matt Lauer and the sexual harassment case. We have to point out that with all these sexual harassment cases, we got to be careful on how much money someone makes. It doesn't matter how much money you make. If you're sexually harassing somebody, you're sexually harassing somebody.
Absolutely.
And to point out, oh, you're making such and such money, it kind of makes it where if you're poor and you sexually harass somebody,
you get a pass.
You get a pass.
Exactly.
No one gets a pass.
Okay, I agree that what you're saying is right. That is not the issue. The issue is that any human being, I speak English, I can speak very well. Any human being that goes on TV and speaks English, no human being on earth is worth $20 million.
I think everybody here agreed with you on that, Gary. Gary, everybody here agrees with you. Absolutely so. Everybody here agrees with that.
What are you going to do about it? You're going to go up against the Republicans and the plutocracy?
No. What we're going to do? Let me tell you what we're going to do.
Television on a news show.
Hey, Gary.
Than I'm going to make in 40 years of working.
Brother Gary, let me tell you what we are going to do. You see what Delilah, Rebecca, and Daniel is doing right now? That's what we're going to do about it. These are folks out there in the field trying to make a change, and that change comes with education and all of that. Let me tell you a quick story. I got to go to the other, but I want to make a quick story. A dear friend of mine called me yesterday and said, hey, there's this person who got flooded out, and the apartment complex, or not, the condo that they bought is asking them for a whole $32,000 to clean up the commons, and several people in the 60 unit building is going to fork out the money, but she's raising hell because why do I have to pay that? One of the things I noticed out there was how people were just complacent and thinking they didn't have options. And that is within our politics as well. How many people are out there thinking that they do not have options? What these folks in this room are doing right now, they are telling people you have options, because what has happened in America, there's another thing I wrote called we need to regain our worth, because most Americans, they won't come out and tell you that, but they feel worthless. They feel like they have no power. That is the feeling of most Americans. You go to a group and you ask them, hey, can you make a change? No, everything's going to stay the same. How can you say that in a democracy? How can you in a democracy say everything's going to stay the same? That's what these great people out in this studio are doing right now. Thank you very much for the call, Gary. Let's go to Senor Scott, number 2.
Thank you. We just got another open congressional seat in the Houston area.
Yes.
Yes, yeah, I'm talking about Gene Green's seat, District 29. Yeah, well, first of all, I wonder whether Daily Kos would make an endorsement.
Whether who would make an endorsement?
Daily Kos?
Daily Kos? I don't. I am just a writer there and one of their contributing editors. I don't have the power to do that. But I tell you what, they're going to make a call, and that I can guarantee you that in a little bit. I'll talk to Marcus Molitsas and see what he's thinking about. Okay, and I'll let you know, my friend. All right?
Yeah. Okay, well, I'm not making an endorsement, but I strongly suspect that Sylvia Garcia is the front runner. She's been supporting a lot of candidates for other offices. That's a good way to make allies.
Now, let me just say something about that. I have no preference in these elections. In fact, it's not even somebody that it's not even in my district. But I tell you what I hope, and I hope the good people in this room has some answers to that. I really want to see new young blood. Look, there are several times I've thought about running and then decided I am doing none of that because you know what? I'm too damn old for that. We need to have young people in the fold now, and we old folks need to sit our butts down and lend support to them. Daniel.
Okay, I don't know.
Hold on a second. I want to hear Daniel's response.
Well, I'd like to hear what y'all have to say about this too, particularly for TX29 in terms of turnout and where things should go blue. One thing I just want to mention briefly about TX29, there are several other candidates in that race.
Right.
This is not a dig at anybody or anything like that. I would like to see it be a fair, open, honest debate and see those candidates get a fair shot. That's all.
Rebecca?
I guess that just made me think of something else when we talk about the fair, open, honest debate. Just like we're having our forum on Saturday, and we've already had 2 forums. I never realized when I was just like a regular person and not an activist, how hard it is to really find out what these politicians are thinking.
Exactly.
Because the kinds of people that want to be in office are the kinds of people who want to be in charge and they want to win, and so they're careful, they're cautious, they're weighing their words, and I feel like just walking up to them and be like, come on, just tell me what you really think. But
yes,
and so I would like to see that in all of the open races and with all of the candidates, but I'll be honest, like my son says, I'm a little bit of a pessimist.
I am not a pessimist. I am actually a very positive. I think positive, and I think if the fact that you guys are out there and that other people, and that we're going to activate other people to go out there, that we can make a change if we choose to make a change. But if we sit back there and think, it's not going to happen like a whole lot of people are thinking right now, then it ain't going to happen. Delilah. The question that I
think it's going to happen. I just don't know that we're going to hear the truth from everyone.
Oh, well, that's one of the things. We try to pull the truth out of people. Now, Delilah, as far as 29th is concerned, what would you like to see in the 29th?
I think CD29 is a Democratic stronghold,
right?
So I don't think many people are worried about the seat. To Daniel's point, though, there are a couple of people along with Senator Garcia running for that district. But I would just like to see, as far as Battleground's concerned, increased voter turnout and increased voter registration, particularly amongst young voters and new voters.
But again, the other thing that I want to stress again, and this is not to cut you off, Scott, but the other thing that I want to stress, and I really mean that, if we want to get millennials voting, if we want to get millennials activated, they have to see more than just the old guard. They have to see fresh blood, fresh ideas, and things that address them. When we have a bill like this tax bill that is going to hurt, it's going to hurt students like no other. It's going to hurt, and you don't see the Democratic base. You talk about whoever's running in the 29th right now. Who came out in the 29th and said, you know what? We have to fight for those students, those grad students who are going to be taxed on their $30,000 grant now. I don't hear it.
But
I have a comment.
Go ahead, Gary, and then I'm going to have to let you go, my dear friend.
Yeah, there are 3 candidates who have filed in District 29 I know nothing about.
Yes.
On the other hand, Sylvia Garcia has been in office some time. She has a record. People can know about her.
Right.
So that's probably how I'd vote right now, but I could change my mind. Actually, I vote in District 18, so I'm not going to be voting in that district.
Thank you.
But it is interesting to me. It's a new open seat.
And I'm glad you brought that up because you were able to open the discussion to something that I really wanted to add to Scott. So thank you very much for calling, my friend. Okay.
Real quick.
Yes.
To the millennial thing. I just want. I've said this before. Whenever I had, the chance. Millennials themselves. So when you think about these octogenarians telling women about their reproductive organs. Mm-hmm. And then you have these same people telling millennials about what they should do in their lives. Mm-hmm. It's a very big disconnect.
Exactly.
And that's why millennials should be running.
Thank you.
For every single thing they can. Because for representation, same thing for when black people wanted to be represented, what do? We went out there and
got representation.
Exactly.
Exactly right. So you're absolutely right, my friend. I think one is going, my friend.
I got you.
Yeah. Now, look, I'll tell you what, let's go to John, and then I'll say what I want to say. That's number 3. All right, John, come on in, my friend.
Good afternoon, Humberto.
How are you doing today, sir?
All right. So I'm wondering, we had a meeting a couple of weeks ago at our revolution in San Antonio, and, we nominated, Rick Trevino is officially our revolution
I will be interviewing him next week.
I'm sorry.
I'm interviewing Rick Trevino next week.
All right, on this show?
Yes, on actually the local one, yes.
Oh, excellent. Okay, so, also, there are 3 Bernie candidates who supported Bernie, rather, in the 21st district, and so we're not going to know that. Even though we did have the vote in the San Antonio, they're going to have the Austin vote on next Sunday, so we'll probably know that next week. So also Darnell Jones in the 2nd District where you live, and Adrian Bell in the 14th District.
Right, interviewed both of them as well.
Right, those have been endorsed by Justice Democrats. So I'm wondering, have y'all had a meeting to endorse in the Houston our revolution? Candidates, have y'all done that? And also, I'm wondering about the 7th district, which again has a 10-point lead in the PPP polling that was out last year from the generic Democrat. I'm wondering about these candidates.
Daniel looks like he wants to answer that. So, Daniel, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say briefly, so for what it's worth, Indivisible Houston focuses on local pressure, and we don't have an endorsement process in place, and I can't stand it when an organization that doesn't have an endorsement process in place, or one that may have one in place, but it's all a matter of formality, just hands out endorsements. So we haven't kind of weighted toward that. But I think with the TX07 candidate forum that's taking place on December 2nd, that's an opportunity for people to ask these questions open and honest questions about their progressive bona fides, and we know since Egberto is going to be the moderator that the truth is going to come out. And I know that there are other local organizations that have endorsed, and that there are individuals who are stumping in different races. For what it's worth, the OR group here made 3 endorsements in the local HISD election, and I know that there are other progressive groups that are taking a look at TX07, TX02, and they will probably take a look at TX29 if I had to guess.
Any of you want to add to that? No? Okay. Rebecca? No? Okay, you have anything else, John? Because my line's filling up again, and so...
I will add something in general, not about that in particular.
Go ahead.
But it all really does boil down to turnout, even for the millennials, because the more kinds of voters, the more types of ages of voters, the more different socioeconomic backgrounds of the voters, the better our candidates are. Unfortunately, we are in this sort of two-party system, but better on both sides. We can have better Republican candidates, too.
Exactly. And what Rebecca just said is very, very important, right? I mean, if we get a diverse group of candidates, and I'm not only talking racial diversity, I'm talking about gender diversity, I'm talking about class diversity, all kinds of people being out there, then you'll have more people feeling that they see themselves in those races, and that gives them a reason to come out. Anything else you want to add, Brother John?
Yeah, I'm just wondering about Cargis would be considered the favorite in the 7th. And
No. I don't think so at this point, John. Just putting that out there.
This guy, Alex, I don't know how to pronounce
Triantafyllis.
Yeah, okay. He's raised a lot of money. So, are there any other candidates? I know that y'all are pretty, active, so y'all don't want to endorse anybody. But I mean, maybe you can give me some insight into some of the other candidates.
I mean, do you want to know who they are?
No, I know who they are.
Oh.
I mean, I can look at their websites. I mean, I'm pretty familiar
Hey, John.
with them. But
We're going to be live streaming. We're going to be live streaming the forum on Saturday,
Yeah.
and I think that's going to be your best bet for finding out what the different candidates' strong suits are.
Yeah, John, because I need to jump to some other guys right here. But again, we're going to be doing that, I think. Hey, when we go to the Daily Show, man, it's going to be a lot. We're going to be able to cover so much more. But hey, anything else you want to add real quick, John, before we go to the next?
No, that's it. All right. Thank
you,
very
brother.
much.
Have a good one now. All right, let's go to line number 5 to Peter.
Hey guys, hello?
Yes, Peter, you're on. Oh, I lost you, Peter. Call us back. Okay, something happened with the thing. We have to. If people give a little bit more to KPFT 90.1 FM Houston, Texas, we could get a board that works and don't drop anybody. Look, 2 people just got dropped. Please call back. We want to hear from you. But for the time being, let's go to Senor Bill, number 1. Oh, okay, number 4. Let's go to Mod. Mod, come on in for MOD.
Hello.
Hello. How you doing, buddy?
Good, man. I really appreciate and admire Scott's and John's sincereness with our local government.
Absolutely.
That's I think it's important. That's probably more toward the conversation, but I'm just thinking and watching like John Corners, and all these other folks at that higher level of government. There's something going on that I see that is not just coincidence, but this I call it character assassination. I might be called a chauvinist pig for not identifying the narrative now of all this distraction of men, chauvinist pigs, or what you want to call them, that are
right,
activists or whatever. The narrative right now, discussion, but this seems to be a pattern. Like, do you remember this guy named the Lieutenant General or the Attorney General for New York, with Elliott?
Yes. I remember that.
Yeah, you remember when he was, I think it was Attorney General, he was pushing for Glass-Steagall to be reinstalled, and then he became governor, and then, though he couldn't legislate on the floor for it, he still lobbied it, right? And somehow, out of nowhere came this Washington.
I get your drive, MOD. But let me. I want to jump in here because I know exactly what you're. I see exactly where you're going. I want to just clear the air on that here. First of all, 2 things don't have to be mutually exclusive, right? I mean, they don't have to be mutually exclusive. I'm going to tell you where I stand on the women's issues. I have 2 women in here, so I'll definitely want to hear their point of view. But I think there was some catalyst to get this stuff started, and I really don't care what the catalyst was or is. But I'm so happy that it happened because I was riding a bike with a friend of mine, and one of the things that she was saying is that she kind of gave, in my opinion, some of the guys a pass. But you see, I'm a guy. And I'm in places where there are only guys at times, right? And I know what guys do, right? So my thing is, I don't really care if, some of the things is that, well, some of these women asked for it, or some of these women did this to promote their career or whatever. I'll tell you something. If I am the person who is giving out that career, and a woman thinks she has to sleep with me to move her career forward, it is my fault as well. You know why? Because guess what? All in this great old capitalist system, everybody has some option that they use to move forward, and it's sad that those are the options that.
That's not what I'm trying to say.
I know, but let me let these women in first of all.
That's not what I was leading to, though.
I got it. Go ahead. Anybody wants to address that?
I think, just like you said earlier about being too old to run for office, I'm starting to feel with this, like listening as this thing has unfolded, I feel like I find myself. I think I'm old-fashioned. I'm just not like when it comes to people that work for you or people that are too young.
Right.
That's like totally off limits. But I'm just not as outraged.
Okay, and I want to hear from the millennial now.
Yeah.
Millennial.
I mean, I just think that as a country, right, we've never really addressed or approached like sexual assault, harassment, or violence the right way. I think we have a long ways to go towards doing that. And I think, like you said, right, like maybe there was a catalyst that started this, or maybe the fact that a couple of women spoke up encouraged other women to also speak up. But at the same time, right, there are a lot of women who aren't speaking up, right? And I think that we have to recognize that, like, this problem's more prevalent than we've ever thought it was, right? But again, I think we have to change our attitudes and beliefs around the way we view women or even respect women, or what, I mean, to your point about working with someone, and when you work over them and have power over them, what you think is, I mean, not necessarily what is allowed, right? But definitely what is
sometimes
wrong.
what is necessary.
Or sure, but I'm saying...
Yeah, hold on, Emody, let her finish.
Oh, I'm finished. Then.
Okay.
I want to... Oh, no, I forgot what it is.
Okay, go ahead, Emody. I think you wanted to say that we took it somewhere...
I'm saying that's the convenient narrative. And
right.
we see people like Elliot Spitzer who had some significance and purpose to reestablish some regulation.
Yes.
We see people that were on that list, like Cheney, he wasn't mentioned, nor David Vitter at the time, a senator of Louisiana. And guess what? He continued to prostitute and got reelected.
Right.
The media gave him a pass.
Right.
What I'm trying to say is, the point I'm making is, yes, this is bad. It's throughout our last couple baby booms of using and abusing women. But what I'm saying is, it's now the narrative, and we're talking about that, and we're talking about Kim Jong-un, and we're not talking about like
the tax.
Like,
guess what, Emody, you're correct there. I don't think what we said was, and I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I have to go to another call, but I wanted to let you know that you're correct. I don't think anybody here is disagreeing with that statement that you just made at all, right? And that's why the statement that I made is things don't have to be mutually exclusive. Right now, everything is on this issue, and taking what Rebecca had to say.
I remember what
Go
I was
ahead,
going to
Rebecca.
say, which is, rather than looking back and looking at all the people, like looking at from today's standards at things that happened in the past, I feel like we should look forward and see what things we can do to support women now.
Right.
Like, can we have a way that they can come forward and not have to sit in front of a courtroom full of people and expose everything that happened to themselves and still ask for justice?
Yes.
How can we support the women?
I think that there's a balance we got there. MOD, I really want to keep you...
is it okay if I just wanted to make the statement was, if Lotto really was a newsman, then he would be, talking about how 75% of the world's dictators are propped up and supported by U.S.
Thank you. I mean, you know what? I thank you, brother, for bringing that up, but I got to go now. I only have a few minutes, and I got to get some other people in here. But MOD, you keep listening, you keep calling, and we keep exploring what you got to talk about. All right, buddy? All right, let's go to Peter, number 3.
Hey, guys. So I am a millennial. I live in District 29.
Yes.
Welcome.
I've lived there my whole life. Right now I'm a public school teacher and all of that, working class, all of that. And I immediately, when I saw my news feed that Gene Green was not going to run again, I immediately thought about, well, this is something I've always wanted to do. But one thing is that I kind of want y'all's opinion, what you have to say about this. The district is very heavily immigrant, Hispanic, Latino, Vietnamese, and I am half Hispanic.
Ask your question, my friend. We're running out of time.
Sure. So I'm just wondering, because I'm a white man, although I am very close to the neighborhood and have some ideas about what to improve. What would you do if you were me? And that's it.
Follow your heart.
Okay. Go ahead.
I would just tell... I think he dropped.
Yeah,
I would tell
he's
you
listening.
to make the decision quickly, right? Because the filing deadline's December 11th. But I just think CD29 is exciting for the primary, right? Because I think that when we have contested primaries within the Democratic Party, we're able to engage more voters in the democratic process. So whether or not you run, right, like adding yourself in the race is great, because there'll be people who turn out for you who probably wouldn't have turned out with the 3 candidates that have filed right now.
You want to add?
Yeah, really briefly, 3 things about TX29. First of all, it's great whenever people want to run. I think that more people running is the same thing as more people voting. It means more people involved in the process, so that's wonderful. 2, you definitely do need to move quickly. And I would also think about, if it's something that you've always wanted to do, think about why it was always something you wanted to do, and are you ready for office on top of that? Because that's kind of the other side of the brain. Is it's great that a lot of candidates are coming out, but also think about, like, do you know what's best? Are you engaged? Are you are you active? Do you have a history of that? And then 3, which is something I just want to mention from earlier. Delilah, you mentioned TX29 as a Democratic stronghold. I'm going to say this isn't directed at you. But that's a very common sort of refrain that I've heard lately. So I'm going to scream it from the rooftops. Don't take districts for granted. Because let me tell you something. There's a guy named Orlando Sanchez who got elected here in Harris County, countywide. And he got elected by engaging the Hispanic community. And he's probably eyeing TX29. So the one of the ways the Democratic Party loses seats is by snatching defeat from the jaws of victory. Sure. And you better get out into the streets for TX29. Do not take that district for granted if you do decide to get into that race.
Daniel is absolutely right. But I want to add something, and this is to everybody listening to this show right now. Never sit back if you want to be a progressive doing things for people, and ever let any of us hear you say, I'm a white this, I'm a black this, I'm a whatever this, and should I really run? I'm going to give you the tenet that I would always have. Do you think I want Clarence Thomas in that Supreme Court seat? Hell no. I want somebody who is going to represent the values that I represent, whomever that person is. If we have an equitable society where all have the same access to success, blacks, Latinos, Vietnamese, everybody will eventually surge when we make that society. I am not, and I take a position that a lot of some black people don't particularly like, or some Latinos don't particularly like. I am not a fanatic of carves out. I think I can go into any room, even with a racist, and attract their vote if I can get to their minds. And I think we all have that ability to do so. So folks, never go and not run for anything because of who you think you are, because it defeats the purpose of who we say we are as progressives. Number 1, Bill.
Sir, let me applaud you for your program.
Thank you, sir.
First of all. Number 2, I think that we are a society built on equality. It's no respecter of color, race, religion. Number 3, let me say that I'm the biggest fan of the flat tax.
Okay.
That is no respecter of the size of your company.
Mm-hmm.
A guy that's homeless on the street, whether he walks in and buys a Coke, or a guy that orders $20 million a week worth of motors for a car company.
My brother, I got to go in a little bit, so tell me if you want a specific question. But
my opinion is this, that and I appreciate yours, but I think the flat tax is the fairest way to go for everybody involved in the United States.
Okay.
And it takes the IRS. We basically do away with the IRS, which costs us money tax-wise.
Mm-hmm.
And it downsizes our government.
I get you, my brother. I get you. I get you. You like the flat tax.
I think that the government should get out of our lives.
All right. Thank you for your call, my brother.
Let us do what we do.
Brother, I'm really pressed for time. I can't go into a heavy flat tax debate and how recessive it is, but some other time you keep listening to this show and we will talk. And we will talk about.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much for calling in. And we are going to talk about how dangerous a flat tax is and the damage that it causes to an economy. Let's go to Jeff, número 2.
Good evening, folks.
How you doing, Jeff?
I apologize, but I want to go to the federal level.
Okay, go to the federal level.
Would our friends call 202-224-3121 and tell both our senators, you have to call back twice, you have to call back the second time.
You're getting a standing ovation.
To vote no on this absurd tax raise to us poor Texans.
You know something?
I have a question for you, actually. So when you call Ted Cruz and you tell him you want him to vote no, which reason do you give?
Well, you got to just give a straight answer as quick as possible. Here's the amazing thing about Ted Cruz. He wants your email address. Just ask you for what it is you've got on your mind. And I thank you for allowing me to hijack this local discussion.
No, you listen. That is a local. No. Your 202 number is a Washington number, but it has local effects. And the fact that Daniel gave you a standing ovation after you said that says much, my brother. Thank you for calling.
This is why we want to repeal and replace this Congress.
The number?
Yes, go ahead.
Please, America, call 202-224-3121 and tell your senator what you think.
Thank you very much. Now, I want to give every single one of my panelists a closing statement here for about 45 seconds or so because we're running out of time. So I'm going to start with Rebecca.
So we would love it if you can make it to our forum, but even if you cannot make it to the forum, please join us in actions and registering voters. We do not just sit on your hands and hope that a year from now things will be different. If you do not take action, if you're waiting for everybody else to do it for you, we'll be in the exact same, even worse, sucky place next year at this time.
Thank you very much, Rebecca. Delilah.
I'm just really excited about next year, with the primary and the midterm election. So I would just encourage everyone who's listening to make sure that they're registered to vote, make sure that their voter registration's up to date, and if they have time to attend a voter deputization ceremony to help the Daniels and Rebeccas and I register more voters across Houston and turn them out.
Now, any specific message to millennials?
I would encourage millennials to exercise their voting rights and voting power and to vote for candidates and to turn out and march in support of whoever they think best represents them.
Thank you, Delilah. Senor Daniel.
Indivisible Houston is focused on advocating for government of, by, and for the people through engagement, education, and resistance. We are in the streets every single week over one issue or another. We are pushing back with local defensive pressure against the crony class that is constantly stepping on the necks of the poor, constantly stepping on the necks of people who have been underrepresented in our communities, and we encourage you to join us as well. So you can visit us at indivisiblehouston.org. You can follow us on Facebook. You can follow us on Twitter, or you can get involved in some of these actions and make sure to pound the streets as well, because whether it's voting, engaging with people, registering people to vote, or showing up at actions and making sure that your voice is heard that way through any of the given issues that have come down the pipeline in this horrific year of politics spearheaded by the Trump White House, we would love to see you.
Thank you so kindly, folks, for spending this 1 hour with us. This is Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Willies. You guys have a wonderful rest of the day. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you very much for listening to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. You can personally reach me by sending an email to egberto@politicsdoneright.com. Remember, Egberto is spelled E-G-B-E-R-T-O. Change starts with you. 90.1 KPFT gives you information not tainted by corporate interest. Please visit kpft.org and contribute. Let's ensure continued access to real information and news remain available to all. Again, thank you very much for listening to Politics Done Right.